there was a lot of absenteeism among the women, you know. And they had this business where they would take your regular card out of the rack when you came back to work, and they would put in another card. Then you had to take this card out and write your excuse on it, and then take it to the foreman and give it to him. Then he would, you know, this was, but we said these women are working 7 days. We work 7 days a week, you know. It was during the, and they don't, their work doesn't end when they leave here. They had to go home and wash, and well, you know what a woman does when she gets off from the job, and working 7 days a week, they don't have a minute. And we defy you to make those women sign those cards when they come in here. So we told all the women, you just put on the cards, just tired. You're just tired. That's all excuse you need. When you're working 7 days a week, and then working 24 hours a day, really, because you went home and you did, then you're just tired. And so everybody started to put down on a card, just tired. And they took those cards away.
Those poor women would work all day, then they'd come home and then have to take care of the house. Now, the union was a man's job. I mean, this is the way it was looked upon. And the few of us who were active in the union were not married, didn't have families, you know. There were very few women who were actually married and had children who were active in the union. Very few. You only had so many hours in the day?
Well, there was the beginning of the fight for child care. That the man would not, he might not see this as a special need, you know, because he might still be thinking that the woman, she can take care of those children when she comes home, you know.
There was a real sexist attitude then by society generally and by the radicals themselves. Well, I think that it was sort of preordained, in quotes, you know, that the men would have all the leading roles. And this is what happened. And the few women who aspired to be leaders, if you want to put it that way, didn't come by it easy. They had to take a lot of gaff.
Have to work side by side with the men. I'm not saying that they have no place. They do, you know, and we have to struggle sometimes against them because they don't recognize our worth. And sometimes there is jealousy. You know, this woman, you can't do this, you can't. And it's proven that we can do anything at all.
When the women's movement first came along, what did you think about it?
Fabulous, great. You know, I said, I became part of it. Became part of a group through some young women who invited me and another friend of mine who were the oldsters in this group. Long time overdue. And I participated to whatever degree I could. I thought it was just great.
In your work with the women's movement, did you find any difficulties personally?
Yes, I did. I have a certain impatience with some young women who I feel can't relate to working women. When you come from an area or an economic base where you have choices, you know, that you can't relate to people then who don't have, you know. And women who have to work for a living in the factories or in homes or in offices have a whole different concept of life and, you know, what is needed and required.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you felt to some degree that women in the women's movement who you knew didn't really understand that very well.
Well, how could they? Maybe they hadn't lived long enough or had the same problems. They didn't have the same experiences, you know. On the other hand, I think that many of these women have done tremendous amount of revolutionary work. Opened up all sorts of ideas and concepts I didn't have.